Good morning. I am here to call to order this morning's meeting of the Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System. Carol, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Barry Busada.
Here.
Dr. Jimmy Clark.
Here.
Mr. Steve Davison.
Here.
Ms. Lola Donahoe.
Present.
Ms. Joe Leatherman. Dr. John Noble. Mr. Al Perkins. Mr. Dana Peterson. Ms. Elizabeth Pierre.
Present.
Mr. Virgil Robinson.
Present.
Mr. Mark Romero.
Here.
Ms. Christine Russell. Mr. Joe Salter.
Here.
Mr. Brad Stevens.
Here.
Ms. Julie Stokes. Ms. Bailey Willis. We have a quorum.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Supervisor Salter, would you please lead us in an invocation as we begin this morning's session? Amen. Thank you, Supervisor Salter. May I please have a motion and a second to dispense with committee deliberations and meet as a committee of the whole? It's moved by Supervisor Romero, second by Supervisor Robinson. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion approved. Also, I'd like to advise that if any member of the audience would like to make a public comment on an agenda item, to please use the comment cards located on the table and give it to a staff member. All right. Supervisor Stokes, thank you. Did you note her arrival? May I please have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of last December's board meeting, as well as ratifying the action taken at our January 4th executive committee meeting?
So moved.
So move Supervisor Donahoe, second by Supervisor Pierre. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Again, motion is passed. Again, we are meeting as a committee of a whole, and everyone can vote on all items. Each committee chair will conduct business of that particular committee. But before we get to committee reports, as you know, Dr. John Condos, who served many years on our board, resigned in January. We are very fortunate that the governor took very little time to appoint Dr. John Noble Jr. To complete Dr. Condos' unexpired term that ends this December. Dr. Noble lives in Lake Charles and as well, and he will be serving as an at-large member. So before we begin today, Dr. Noble, would you please meet Brandon DeQueer, one of our legal counsel, to take your oath of office. You'll do that in the front here. Dr. Noble, as you come back to join the dais, we certainly welcome you and look forward to getting to know you better. working with you on a host of issues. You get a full dose today, so we're looking forward to that. Would you have any comments you'd like to give us as you start your journey?
Yes, this is a fabulous opportunity. I'm very flattered to have this position. And I did wear a coat and tie today in honor of John Condos.
Well said, well said. Thank you very much. With that, we'll go ahead and begin committee discussion. Chair Donahoe, would you please address the items under the Academic and Student Affairs Committee?
Thank you very much. We have 7 items on the Academic and Student Affairs agenda today. All of these items are consent items and require approval. Dr. Janine O'Rourke, Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs, will provide the report. Dr. O'Rourke.
Good morning, Supervisor Donahoe, Chair Clark, President Gallo, members of the board, and those in the audience. We do have 7 items that I will walk you through quickly. Agenda item E1 is a request from Louisiana Tech University to offer a doctorate in engineering and technology management. The proposed graduate program builds upon the existing master's degree in the degree as in the same name that completes on a 5-year average 37 students. This multidisciplinary degree, to be offered 100% online and face-to-face, will produce graduates that are able to apply engineering principles and techniques to managerial and business problems in industry, government, the military, and academia. Such a program would be a unique offering here in the state of Louisiana. Agenda items E2 and E3 are from McNeese State University. The institution would like to bestow honorary doctorates of humane letters to the Honorable James D. Kane and Mr. Doug Thornton. Both are graduates of McNeese and have achieved great distinction in their careers and are huge supporters of the university and the community that the institution serves. Agenda item E4 is a request from Nicholls State University to change the name of the College of Business Administration to the Al Danos College of Business Administration. And at this time, I would like to invite President Clune to the testimony table to provide a little background on this request.
Thank you, Dr. O'Rourke. The Mary and Al Danos Family Foundation has committed $3 million to name the new Al Danos College of Business Administration at Nicholls. This remarkable act of giving is a testament to an unwavering commitment to our university and our region, and it's the largest single gift in our 75-year history. The family behind this generous donation is among the most recognized in our region. The funds can be used to construct a new College of Business, which is our highest priority in the 2024 legislative session. The namesake, Al Danos, he was co-owner of Danos and Curall, was very active in our community, one of a kind, determined, disciplined, inspiring many through his passion. He left an enduring legacy at our university and our community. Now his 4 children, Renee, Andre, Elise, and Marcel, operate the foundation, and I would like to read a statement from Renee Danos. We're extremely excited for this collaboration with Nicholls to honor our dad in a meaningful way. With this lasting legacy, it is a true testament to the impact he has had both on Nicholls and the business community. We as a family look forward to continuing to carry on the values and vision that our dad held throughout his career, especially in giving back. So thank you for your time.
Before President Clune goes back to his seat, any questions or comments from the board? All right, moving along, the next 2 agenda items are E5 and E6, and both are on behalf of the University of Louisiana at Monroe. E5 is a request to offer a Bachelor of Applied Science, this 120 credit hour degree program to be offered online, face-to-face, and hybrid, has been developed primarily to meet the needs of those students that transfer to ULM with a degree, Associate of Applied Sciences degree. While an AAS does certainly prepare students for much needed entry-level technical jobs, the proposed BAS would meet the needs of those individuals that would like to move up into supervisory positions in their industry. E6 is a request to resume the development of the Occupational Therapy Doctorate. The OTD was approved by this board in 2018 with subsequent approval by the Louisiana Board of Regents. Steps were taken by ULM to seek approval from the Accreditation Council for Occupational Therapy Education with much success. However, the university decided to cease the pursuit of accreditation of the OTD and terminated the program because the accrediting agency reversed their decision of making the OTD the entry-level credential. There were also some budgetary constraints, and the university at that time was really focused on standing up the new Doctor of Physical Therapy that they pursued around the same time. Due to significant interest and need and demand by industry, the university would like approval to move forward with the OTD and with the goal of having entering class in May or June of 2025. And the last agenda item, E7, is a request from the University of New Orleans to name the College of Business Administration to the Harry Bernstein College of Business Administration. And we have Dr. Johnson in the audience, and she would like to invite her to the table as well to provide you with a little background on that request.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak and give public recognition to Mr. Henry Bernstein, who has been a long-time and generous supporter of the University of New Orleans. We request that the College of Business Administration be dedicated as the Henry Bernstein College of Business Administration in recognition of Henry Bernstein's significant economic, financial, and charitable contributions to the state of Louisiana, the city of New Orleans, and our university. Prior to his retirement, Mr. Bernstein was an attorney and partner at the law firm of Milling, Benson, and Woodward, specializing in matters of taxation and corporate banking. After his retirement from the practice of law, Mr. Bernstein served gratis as an adjunct professor in the university's Department of Management, where he taught business law for 22 years. Mr. Bernstein's total lifetime giving to the University of New Orleans is credited in excess of $6 million. He currently serves as a member of the campaign cabinet for the Next Is Now campaign, which is our $50 million comprehensive capital campaign. As a long-term friend and benefactor of the University of New Orleans, Mr. Bernstein chooses to remain a quiet donor who never hesitates to give when aware of a need. It has truly been my honor since I arrived in New Orleans to get to know him better, and I couldn't be more thrilled to recommend that our College of Business Administration be named after such an outstanding teacher, leader, philanthropist, and friend.
Supervisor Donahoe, that concludes the items for consideration today.
Thank you very much. Does anyone on the board have a question? The questions?
I do. Just a clarification in terms of next step process on E6. The Monroe request for the approval to resume the development of the OTD. Does that have to go back to Regents for any approval?
It does. We have worked with staff, the campus and myself have worked with staff to not have to do the whole proposal together, because I mean, it's been a couple of years, and normal process or policy set forth by the Board of Regents is typically to do the whole proposal vetted through this board and to them. But we were able to condense the process and just have this reaffirmation of the program. So it will go to their board, and the university will be able to move forward once that's approved.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Well,
Any other questions from the board? Are there any comments or questions from the public? If not, I would ask for a motion to approve these items. It's been moved by Mr. Salter.
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. Do we have to take a roll call, Carol, or just, okay, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Rourke.
All right. Ms. Stokes, will you please chair the audit committee for us?
You skipped athletics.
Oh, I skipped athletics. The first of many mistakes that this chair will make, I promise you. Mr. Stevens, I believe that you're going to be doing athletics today in the abstention of Mr. Perkins.
Correct. And I won't take it personally that you skipped me.
Good. Good.
Members, we have 7 items on the athletic committee agenda today, all consent agenda items, and Mr. Bruce Janay will provide an overview by campus.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Mr. Stevens, for chairing the committee. Campus is requesting approval of the following. Each of you were sent out the contract and the executive summary that denotes the specifics of each contract. Item F1 from Grambling, a contract with Robert L. Mickey Joseph, their new head football coach. F2 from Louisiana Tech, contract with Steve Vogt, who's the head women's soccer coach. F3 is from Louisiana Tech. Approval of contracts with very consistent football coaches. Jeff Burrs, Jeremiah Johnson, Keelan Brooklyn, Lorenzo Joe, Nathan Young, and Teddy Veal. Item F4 is from McNeese requesting approval of a contract with Frank William Wade, head men's basketball coach. Item F5 from Northwestern, contract with their new football coach, Blaine McCorkle. And item F6 is from Southeastern, approval of a contract with the athletic director, Jay Ortiz. And finally, item F7, University within Lafayette, amendments to the current contract with Theodore Slyman, head of golf coach. And those are all the items we have.
Members, these items have been reviewed by staff and are recommended for approval. Of course, if there's any member that has a question or wishes to discuss this item, please let me know now. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? If no one requires further clarification of the consent agenda items, may I have a motion and a second for approval of items F1 and F7 as presented with revised agreements as of February 21st, 2024 for items F1 and F4.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Romero, second by, is that Virgil?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. That concludes the business of the athletic committee. Next committee is now audit.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Stevens. Yes, Ms. Stokes, as the audit committee chair, would you please take over?
Yes, we have one item on the audit committee today. That is a discussion item. Ms. Jennifer Overthier will provide a brief overview.
Item 1G of Universal Louisiana System report on internal and external activity for the period of December 5th to February 12th, 2024. Last week, each board member received a listing of internal and external reports completed by various auditors since the last board meeting. Also included in that audit summary are internal audits that are currently in progress and a follow-up timetable to ensure recommendations made in prior reports are implemented. This is a report only and no action by the board.
So are there any questions or comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Do we have any other business at this time? If not, the next committee is facilities planning.
All right, so Mr. Prasad, will you please address the items under the Facilities Planning Committee agenda?
Thank you. We have 8 items on the Facilities Planning Committee that are all consent agenda. Mr. Bruce Janay will provide an overview of the agenda items by campus.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prasad, and good morning again, board members. Campuses are requesting approval of the following. Item H, for Louisiana Tech. Request to execute a lease between the board on behalf of the university, innovative student facilities to finance the cost of a project for a new parking facility for students, faculty, and staff. The university, through innovative student facilities, proposes to use the proceeds of a loan from Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facility Community Development to finance a project which will be represented through one or more series of revenue bonds. The total principal amount of the bond is expected to be approximately $10 million. Annual debt service for the proposed bonds will be secured and payable from lease payments paid by the board on behalf of Tech Innovative Student Facilities pursuant to the facility link. The payments will be derived from lease payments paid by the board on behalf of Louisiana Tech University to the corporation. The proposed parking facility will be multi-level with approximately 300 spaces located off the West Mississippi line. Students voted last year in April of 2023 to pay a fee of $20 per quarter, which should cover the debt payment. Tech hopes to borrow the money by the end of this spring and begin construction this summer in order to have the project completed for the summer of 2025. But as of now, it all depends on the interest rates and construction costs. This will determine the timing and scope of the work. I wanted to point out that Tech has been working with Toby Cortez and Laura Sidstrom and waiting for the bond market and interest rates to turn in their favor. Item H2 is from Louisiana Tech as well. Execute a ground lease with Louisiana Tech University Foundation for the purpose of improving Aspire Plaza and to rename it Aspire and Les Geis Plaza. This naming is to recognize Les and Kathy Geis for their decades of service to the Louisiana Tech University community. The university and the foundation estimate the value of improvements to be approximately $125,000 for new landscaping, lighting, and signage. The ground lease will expire when the substantial completion document is signed and all construction is completed. Upon completion of the work, all improvements will be donated back to the university. This naming is for the useful life facility. Item H3, from Louisiana Tech, create an Origin Bank Center for student success of Go IA State. Origin Bank has made a gift of $4 million that has been pivotal in progressing this project to success. They have been affiliated with Louisiana Tech for over 3 decades and have supported all aspects of the university with its gift to academic, athletic, and student programs. This naming will be for a fixed term of 30 years. Item X4 from McNeese, question approval to demolish the Equine Center that's been heavily damaged beyond repair by Hurricane Laura and Hurricane Delta in 2020. The university has elected to demolish and replace this building in kind. Item H5 from Nichols, also request to demolish their swimming pool building or pump house that's located near their JJIO pool. The demolition of the pool will be funded by deferred maintenance. Once demolition occurs, the pump house is no longer required. The removal of the structure will be available to help provide additional space to student organizations. Item H6 is from Nichols. They're requesting approval to name Suite 14 in the student union that houses the offices of the Executive Board, Student Government Association, Student Programming Association, the Dolly LaFont McGeever SBA Suite. Miss Dolly, she is affectionately known as student, has been the administrative SBA for over 16 years. She is known for working as many hours it takes, no matter the time or day, to ensure that all SBA business is completed. Students often describe her as their school mom or school grandmom. This naming will be for the useful life of the facility. Item H7, University of Louisiana Lafayette, requesting approval to amend the current ground lease with Raging Cajun facility of the property known as University Health Science Campus to allow Raging Cajun facility to sublet the leasehold to their subsidiary and other third party for the benefit of the board, but it's subject to approval by the university first. Finally, item H8, University of Louisiana Monroe, enter into a grounds and facilities agreement with ULM Facilities to make improvements to the softball complex. This project will include installing additional outfield seating, an outfield student section, and new entryway to the complex to increase capacity, access to provide safety. This will also include new hard pavement to access to the new seating area. ULMFI anticipates total funding of approximately $237,000. As comments, the grounds and facilities lease will expire when a substantial completion document is signed and all construction is complete. Again, upon completion of the work, all improvements will be donated back to the university. Those are all the items that have been brought.
Thank you, Mr. Janay. All the items, agenda items have been reviewed by system staff and outside legal counsel and are recommended for approval. Of course, if any member has a question or wishes to discuss any of these items, please let me know. You have a question, Mr. Clark?
Yes, on H1, Mr. Janay, you referenced the student fee proposal and indicated that payments were to be made or could you clarify that for me so that I understand what portion of this payout is fee related?
Well, what they did, they voted, so, I mean, it's been voted on, approved.
Yeah.
So every quarter that fee, $20 will go toward the part.
Okay, when we were doing the calculations in terms of how those dollars fit, did we have an enrollment figure in mind, the number of students we would need in order to, make the payment?
This time, maybe like to call up Dr. Crawford. That's okay.
Yes, sir. The calculation was based on the current enrollment last year, with no growth to it. We have fortunately seen growth this year in enrollment and anticipate that growth next year, but the calculation for the debt payment based on the student fee was based on last year's enrollment.
And is that last year's full-time enrollment, not the dual enrollment calculation?
Not the dual enrollment, no, sir.
Okay, can you give me that, just a rough in terms of where we were last year?
For our enrollment.
For enrollment, yeah.
We were a
full-time
little over
student.
11,000 last year and we were 11,006 this year.
Okay. Good. I'm being very careful in my own, understanding of enrollment impacts on what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I think that we've mentioned that, for a number of times now, and I want to continue to keep that elevated so that as we go forward, how important enrollment is in all decision-making, not just in terms of tuition and fees and operating budget, circumstances, but also circumstances like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Any other questions from anybody? Any comments from the public? There being none, I would like a motion to approve and a second also for items H1 to H8. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Ogle.
Second. Davison.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next committee is finance.
Chair Romero, will you please take us forward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 6 items before the Finance Committee, 5 of which are consent items, 1 discussion item. Ms. Ashley McIntyre, Mr. Eddie Mesh will provide a brief overview of the consent items.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Item I1, Nicholls State University's request for approval to enter a lease agreement with Sodexo Operations LLC for the operation of food service facilities on the campus of Nicholls State University. Nicholls issued and advertised an RFP for food service operations, and a committee was created to evaluate proposals. Sodexo was the only proposal. The committee evaluated Sodexo's proposal and determined Sodexo's proposal met Nicholls' requirements. The lease term is for 10 years, beginning on May 21, 2024, and ending on May 20, 2034, and may be extended for 2 additional 5-year increments if mutually agreed in writing by both parties. The lease space is 29,700 square feet and located within the Donald G. Bollinger Memorial Student Union. Sodexo would be required to make improvements and furnish the leased property and would be allowed the exclusive right to conduct food service operations on the campus. Nicholls would receive financial consideration from Sodexo, including the following: $3.5 million of food service facility renovations and for the purchase of food service equipment, area treatment, signage, and marketing materials. A $750,000 unrestricted grant to Nicholls payable within 30 days after execution of the agreement. A minimum annual lease payment of $300,000, and with increased amounts when sold meal plans exceed 1,100 meals, up to $450,000 when sold meal plans exceed 1,301 meal plans. A 15% commission on total gross meal ticket sales and on gross cash receipts from fast food operations, and a 10% commission on sales on national brand operations. $250,000 and $200,000 annually to a facility refresh fund and the furniture, fixture, and equipment fund, respectively. Sodexo would also provide utility reimbursements, in-kind catering services, athletic meals, and food and beverages for the annual convocation. I2, University of Louisiana's request for approval to establish LAQSF endowed professorships, endowed first-generation scholarships, endowed superior graduate scholarships, and an endowed chair. The Louisiana Education Quality Support Fund provides for grants to be awarded upon receipt of private donations for the establishment of endowed professorships, first-generation scholarships, superior graduate scholarships, and endowed chairs. Management boards are required to authorize the establishment of the endowments prior to submission to the board of regents for matching funds. The following campuses have submitted endowments to the board for establishment. McNeese has submitted 3 professorships. Northwestern has submitted 3 first-generation scholarships and 1 superior graduate scholarship. Southeastern has submitted 2 first-generation scholarships and 1 superior graduate scholarship. UL Lafayette has submitted 2 professorships, 2 superior graduate scholarships, and 1 chair. And UNO has submitted 13 first-generation scholarships to the board for approval. I3, University of Louisiana System's report of LAQSF endowments. At the December meeting, the board discussed LAQSF endowments and requested additional information about endowments that have been approved by the board, but have not yet been matched by the Board of Regents. The Board of Regents provided us with a list of unmatched professorships, scholarships, and chairs. For fiscal year 2023, 2 endowed professorships, 9 superior graduate scholarships, and 3 endowed chairs have been submitted by campuses for matching, but have not yet been matched. As of fiscal year 2023, the Board of Regents has matched a total of 962 professorships, 179 first-generation scholarships, 54 graduate scholarships, and 70 endowed chairs. The Board of Regents website provides details of matched endowments for all institutions. This is a report only and no action is required.
Item 4 is a systems request for approval of payments made by nonprofit organizations to employees of the system during fiscal year 23 in accordance with provisions of Louisiana Revised Statute 173390. In your materials is a schedule of payments made by nonprofit organizations to employees of the system for the fiscal year ended 23. Louisiana Revised Statute requires that any single payment of over $1,000 made by a nonprofit organization to or on behalf of an employee or officer of a public higher education institution or management board be approved in writing by the appropriate management board in accordance with written policies and procedures. In accordance with our Finance and Business PPM, we are requesting that the board approve the schedule of payments made by nonprofit organizations to university employees during fiscal year 2023. Individual campuses submit quarterly reports of these payments, and they have been compiled into the schedule provided. Item 5 is the system's financial status of alternatively financed projects for the 6 months ended December 31st, 2023. Alternatively financed projects are facility construction projects that are financed and constructed by campus-affiliated nonprofit corporations like foundations and facility corporations. Universities lease their land to the nonprofits, and the nonprofits finance and construct the facilities and then lease the completed facilities back to the universities. In many cases, the nonprofits will incur debt to finance these projects, and campus facility lease payments finance the bonds. Semi-annually, campuses report the financial status of these projects. Campuses report results of operations and debt coverage ratios of their projects. A debt coverage ratio of 1 would indicate that operations funded just enough to make these debt payments with no excess funds. These projects are reported as either student housing or non-student housing projects. For fiscal year 24, campuses budgeted student housing revenues of approximately $69 million, expenses of $26 million, annual debt obligations of $34 million, and a debt coverage ratio of 1.3. The actual debt coverage ratio as of December 31st was 1.8 for all campuses. The ULM housing project had a ratio of 0.5 as of December 31st, and this is because the principal debt payment was made in November. ULM expects to be at or above its budgeted ratio of 1.2 by fiscal year end. Campuses did not express any concern regarding their individual housing projects. Non-housing projects would include student unions, parking garages, recreational facilities, athletic facilities, and similar projects. In total, the campus has budgeted non-housing revenues of approximately 23 million, expenses of 8 million, annual debt obligations of 11 million, and a debt coverage ratio of 1.4. The actual debt coverage ratio as of December 31st was 2.0 for all campuses. The ULL baseball stadium project had a ratio of 1.0 as of December 31st, and this is because the ULL Foundation reimburses the debt service for this project, and that reimbursement is the only revenue, and the debt service is the only expense for this project. The Nichols Parking Project had a debt coverage ratio of 0.9 as of December 31st, and this is because Nichols had collected the majority of the revenues for this project as of December 31st, and the total annual debt service payment is shown for this project, so the ratio is not skewed. According to Nichols, they are on track to meet their budgeted ratio of 1.2. Campuses did not express any concern regarding their individual non-housing projects. All management certifications are available for review in the system office. If any individual reports are needed, they are available upon request. This is a report only, and no action by the board is necessary.
This completes the consent items, Mr.
Thank both of you. Consent items 1, 2, and 4 have been reviewed by board staff and are recommended for approval. Of course, if any member has a question or wishes to discuss any of the items, please let me know at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Eddie, on the item I1 on the Sodexo contract, how many campuses across our system does Sodexo provide services to?
I don't know if I could give you an exact number, but several campuses.
Several
They're not the
campuses.
only campus.
Right. And all the contracts are negotiated independently?
Correct. There's a process for an RFP.
Yeah.
Normally, not always, but several companies will put in a bid.
Mm-hmm.
A committee will evaluate those
Mm-hmm.
that would best serve the Nichols, and then they make a selection.
Are the incentives generally comparable across campuses?
It depends.
So we're looking at the last bullet here as an example. Sodexo will provide Nichols with a $50,000 growth fund payment for gross receipts greater than 8 million, additional $50,000 for each additional 2 million of gross receipts. Are things like that similar across campuses, or are they just based on what each campus negotiates?
When they negotiate, they'll negotiate these separate items that would benefit the institution.
Mm-hmm.
The type of contract will depend on the size of the school, their enrollment, projection for future revenues, how many on-campus students they have, and those all have a bearing on the contract that eventually is negotiated and complete. For Nichols, this is a pretty good contract.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Any other questions? Dr. Clark?
Not a question, just to follow up. You're intriguing me in terms of, looking at opportunities. Is that where you were maybe thinking? In terms of...
Well, I think there are two, I guess, buckets you could put interest in. One would be, are the incentives comparable across campuses, and are they fair? And then I think secondly would be probably a larger issue of if campuses were combining efforts to put out RFPs for service, would that in any way either A, drive down the cost of overall services, and maybe even B, provide greater individual campus incentives, or greater incentives across the board?
Well, I would say that each campus is different. Some command a bigger brand, some less. Some have more students on campuses, some less. And so in the past, that's been brought up. But I think.
And what was done with it in the past? Was it ever explored, studied?
I think
reviewed?
It was concluded that it was best for each institution to negotiate the contract.
Mm-hmm.
But how, let me follow up with that. How was it concluded? Was it a study, a committee, a subcommittee?
Well, I think it was a discussion, and talked about what would be involved if all campuses were to be the one single contract. And current contracts their end dates are various times, throughout a 10-year period. Some are based on how many students they have, what their brand is. I mean, not to say that it wouldn't be possible, but it would be difficult.
So if I would, I certainly posed that question some years ago, understanding the potential strength that could be gained without consolidated buying power, and had a much better understanding. I think our system president could add a lot based on what he did at Grambling. Each campus's unique needs, some of the capital intensive projects that might come from these investments from our food vendors. Rick, if you don't mind, share some of the things you were able to gain that probably were, ideally advantageous for an HBCU that maybe other schools wouldn't be able to take advantage of, that might have limited your outcomes.
Well, I think Eddie hit the nail on the head. Each institution is unique. And so what worked for Grambling with a Sodexo Magic contract, because it is a partnership between Sodexo and Magic Johnson Enterprises. And so I think there were some investments made to an HBCU that may or may not be there for other institutions. Now, we do have Sodexo at several of our other schools, Northwestern, ULL. Am I forgetting somebody? GSU, NSU, Nichols, and UL. Yeah, so I covered them all. So I think, but I would welcome the opportunity to look at it. Certainly, if there are ways to leverage that those opportunities, I think we at least owe it to our schools and to the board to at least take a look at it. So I would certainly welcome the opportunity to move forward with that and come back to the board with some findings on that.
And I
Look,
think-
if there's clear rationale for why it's done this way, I'm okay with that. I just think every time you see one, it just begs the question of,
I do
is
think
there a better way to do
Well,
this?
one other thing I'd point out, like Grambling, for instance, has approximately 2,400 beds on campus, which by enrollment, that's a big number compared to some other schools that have a larger enrollment, but less on-campus housing. So you would never get an apples and apples comparison just by the sheer number of students who live on campus there versus at other campuses.
I do think, at minimum, we do share benchmarks on how the factors in each agreement might help as we negotiate future contracts, and we should continue to do that as a system. If there is a point where it would be prudent, it would certainly be an advantage for us to build in a more centralized and uniform system. And I believe we have a responsibility to pursue that. However, in most circumstances, and I do understand the uniqueness of each campus, the makeup of the student population in terms of on campus, off campus, and as well, maybe the unique capital needs and other factors that have caused us to continue to do these things individually. I do think it would be real easy to take as an example, Sodexo, who's got a number of our campuses, and be a part of that negotiation and at least imply the advantage of them giving us, the maximum value that we can achieve. So,
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Just one last point on this, to your point, Mr. Romero. If you look at the facility renovations, clearly would be in contribution to that may be unique to each campus. But when you think about the sort of, incentives like the percent of receipts, commission essentially of receipts or above a certain number, like there could be, I would think, some uniformity to that or
Absolutely.
or some
I
parity.
think it's a great idea. Great
Just
means to-
talk about facilities, excuse me. One campus might need facility improvements, and another campus might not, so it would go the other way.
This conversation, in my mind, begs the question, are there other types of contracts that we would benefit looking at in terms of a systemic negotiation? And if so, have we done that on an ongoing basis? Do we need to redo it? Are there
some
things?
of the technology investments we're making, I know they're doing those in a uniform way, and We need to continue to advance and leverage the strength of our system and our population as a whole. So Jimmy, to your point, I think that should be a priority. Mr. President, we certainly look forward to seeing you lead.
And I accept the task of advancing those conversations on leveraging our collective, contracting strength. I think we've seen with Canvas is one example of how as a system we have we've leveraged that collective strength. But no, I welcome the opportunity to do it.
I'd be delighted to see us do something on the written enrollment side.
I accept that challenge too.
Any other questions or comments from the board? And thank you, Dana, for your contribution. No other questions, any comments from the public? If no one requires any further clarification, if I could ask for a motion and a second to approve consent items 1, 2, and 4. Moved by Dana,
Second, Stevens.
second by Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. This time, Ms. McIntyre, Mr. Mesh will provide an overview of the next discussion item.
Item 6 is a systems discussion of fiscal year 24's second quarter financial reports and ongoing assurances. In your materials, you'll see all of the quarterly financial reports I'll be discussing. The first report is a comparison of the operating budget versus actual revenues and expenses through the second quarter ending December 31st, 2023. Overall, total revenues collected for the second quarter is 63% of budget. This year, the total revenue collected as of December 31st was approximately $605 million compared to $566 million last year, and this increase is mostly from general appropriations. Only 26% or 17 out of 64 million of other revenues were collected. Some of this is due to the timing of recording indirect costs and the timing of transfers into the operating budget. But based on information provided by campuses and based on other data, we expect that some of the remaining budget may not be collected for fiscal year 24.
In fiscal years ended 2021, 2022, and 2023, institutions receive HERF grants to replace lost revenue and other revenues caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. HERF grants expired on June 30, 2023, and these funds are no longer available to provide additional revenue support to institutions. Fall 23 student enrollment is not fully recovered to pre-pandemic levels. Fall 23 end of term enrollment is down by approximately 9% from fall of 2019 and down approximately 13% if dual enrollment students are excluded. Since HERF funds are no longer available in 2024, for some institutions will need to adjust their current year operating fund budgets to reflect any lower than predicted revenues. They're expected to generate additional revenue, use other available institutional resources, including available reserves, or reduce operating fund expenditures to balance their operating fund budgets by the end of the fiscal year. The system will work closely with the institutions to achieve the most balanced approach and positive outcome.
If I could just put an asterisk there, at Grambling, there were remaining HERF dollars that this board previously approved to be used for 2 construction projects. So I just wanted to add that asterisk in there on the, it has expired, but an extension was granted to Grambling to be able to utilize those funds rather than losing them and sending them back.
Moving on to expenses. Overall, expenses for the first quarter are 54% of budget, which is expected. There are a few categories with higher variances to note. Research expense was 69% of budget, and this is mostly due to the timing of expenses related to ULL's one-time research funding and the timing of a one-time annual transfer of expenses. Scholarships and fellowships are 71% of budget, and this is mainly because the fall, summer, and winter scholarships have been awarded. Some spring scholarships have been budgeted from non-operating funds to relieve the operating budget. Operations and maintenance of plant expense was 61% of budget, and this is mostly caused by the timing of ORM insurance payments and other physical plant operations expense. Operating services was 63% of budget, and this is also mostly related to the timing of ORM insurance payments and other IT-related contracts paid at the beginning of the year. Other charges and interagency expense was 70% of budget, and this is mostly related to the summer, fall, and winter scholarships and exemptions. The second report provided is a comparison of actual operating activity between fiscal years 23 and 24. There are a few items to note. Overall, revenues increased by 7% from the prior year, which is mostly caused by the increase in general fund appropriations. These increases are mostly related to one-time research fund related funding at ULL and system-wide pay increases and other mandated cost increases. Overall, expenses increased by only 6% from the prior year. Research expense increased by 109%, or about $23 million, because of that one-time research funding at ULL. Both scholarship and fellowship expense and other charges and interagency increased because of the timing of recording the scholarships. And this is expected to correct itself in the third quarter. And it also increased slightly due to an increase in enrollment. Other charges expense mostly increased because of the one-time research-related funding at ULL. There were no large variances that are unexplained or cause concern. The next report shows the system's total auxiliary and athletic revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance projected through the end of the fiscal year. I've also provided this report with this information presented by campus. Campuses expect approximately $255 million in revenues, $288 million in expenses, and $17 million in net transfers in, which would result in an overall current year operating deficit of approximately $16.4 million and an ending positive fund balance of approximately $7.5 million. The next report presents each campus's current year athletic deficits for fiscal year 23 compared to their projected current year deficits for fiscal year 24. The projected current year deficit for athletics is $17.5 million, which is slightly higher than last year's deficit of about $17 million. The last report presents the receipts, disbursements, and changes in fund balance of certain restricted funds for the quarter ended December 31st, 2023. With their reports, campuses provide certifications of certain assurances about their operations. They did not note any areas of immediate concern in their certifications. All of these certifications and reports are available for review in the system office, and this is a report only and no action by the board is necessary.
This completes the discussion items.
Mr. Chairman? Yes, sir. May I ask a question? Most of the universities have athletic programs have an operating deficit. And is there a plan of sorts that they're submitting to you all that how they're going to address these deficits to reduce them or to minimize or to totally eliminate them?
So institutions have been provided, but the deficits are still occurring. So there's some additional work that needs to be done to start reducing those deficits.
But are they submitting something, a plan, a program that they're going to work toward to eliminate the deficits?
There are submitting plans, yes, sir, they have.
Okay.
But these deficits still, it's been more challenging than they were able to reduce those deficits even with the plan. A lot of the plans are based on increased revenues, fundraising activities, increasing gate receipts, and sometimes they work and sometimes they fall short. And these cases.
So is this a situation that we should anticipate continuing on out into the future?
Well, I think some additional efforts are needed to reduce these deficits.
Mr. Robinson, to that end, we just approved a contract for the AD at Southeastern, and Dr. Wainwright put a provision in there for deficit reduction incentives and also a balanced budget incentive. And I think that's probably a good model going forward to incentivize everybody that's involved to try to address that issue, because it's going to be tough to do.
Yeah.
But you got to start somewhere. So
Right.
I'm actually very, very happy to see that. And
Thank you. Thank you for your response. Approve the business brought before Finance Committee. Item I-6 is not required board approval.
That's correct.
All righty. Next committee is Personnel, and I've asked Mr. Davison to serve as the chair of the Personnel Committee this year. He has graciously agreed to do so. So in your first go at it, take off.
Thank you. We have 6 items on the Personnel Committee agenda today that are being presented on the consent agenda. Ms. Keisha Neal will provide an overview of each item.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Good morning, Chair Clark, President Gallo, and board members. J1, Grambling State University's request for approval to appoint Mr. Terrence Lilly as Dean of Students effective January 1, 2024. J2, Louisiana Tech University's request for approval to appoint Ms. Camille Geisman as Executive Vice President for External Affairs effective January 15th, 2024. J3, Louisiana Tech University's request for approval to appoint Dr. Donna Thomas as Provost effective March 1st, 2024. Louisiana Tech University's request for approval to appoint Dr. Colin Wick as Dean of the College of Engineering and Science effective October 11th, 2023. J5, Northwestern State University's request for approval to appoint Dr. Amy Badeau as Interim Dean of the College of Nursing and School of Allied Health effective February 5th, 2024. J6, Southeastern Louisiana University's request for approval to appoint Dr. Christy Montgomery as Assistant Vice President and Dean of Students and Senior Compliance Officer effective January 16, 2024. Mr. Davison, that concludes the items to be considered today.
These agenda items have been reviewed by staff and are recommended for approval. Of course, if any member has a question or wishes to discuss them further, please let me know. Any comments from the public? I know we have some here, but I think it's probably, given the folks that are here, we probably ought to try to get them approved before we bring them down to speak, but
good call.
Yeah. All in favor of approving these items? Or, yeah, I'm sorry. Mr. Salter is going to give me a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Donahoe. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? I see Camilla and some of the tech folks are here. I
Mr.
think maybe
Davidson?
Dr.
Ms.
Montgomery.
Mr. Davison.
Yes.
I have a note that Mr. Terrence Lilly is also here today.
Great. If you could come down and we'll put you to some tough questions.
Mr. Chairman, it was 15 years ago, or excuse me, 23 years ago, God Lord, the time is moving, that my mother was up before this board to be appointed the Dean of Graduate Studies at Northwestern State. And she was advised by her president, Randy Webb, that if she had any political ties, she should use them. And so she called me, and I had none, but I did meet a guy named Vic Busey. And so they went through all of the personnel actions one at a time and approved them until they got to hers. And then Vic took the mic and he spoke for about 10 minutes about my mother, and had never met her. But she told me to never work on her behalf again at that point. So we'll just leave that story there. But I'm pleased to introduce someone who really needs no introduction to you. She when I became system president in 2017, she was an assistant vice president for communications, and over 7 years she became just an invaluable member of our team. Led our very august legislative advocacy work. She built a communications team that was second to none. She generated earned media for our system, starting at about $10 million and moving it up to north of $500 million annually. She's remarkably gifted, and she is extraordinarily. She's already stepped in and is doing some extraordinary work at Louisiana Tech. But please welcome Cami Geisman.
Dr. Henderson. Thank you, board. It's so good to see all of you. And now you all know my government name.
Camilla.
It's Kamala for everyone who. You know, I'm so thankful for this opportunity, but it's all because I spent 8 years here and learning from all of you and serving y'all and serving these institutions. But boy, is it fun to be on a campus. So I'm really looking forward to the work. The family's settled in Ruston and we're all working and enjoying it. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, the next one I want to introduce is our new provost. I have known Donna for several years. I got to know her as she was a participant in the second cohort or first cohort, third cohort of the Management and Leadership Institute, where her group got to read To Kill a Mockingbird and learn the leadership lessons from that. But she is an extraordinary academic leader. She has been a fixture at Louisiana Tech since her undergraduate days. She is not only respected throughout the industry, she has a deep affinity and is ever loyal to the loyal blue that we wear in Ruston. So please welcome Donna Thomas, and I will allow her to introduce our new Dean of Engineering. So Donna.
Thank you, President Henderson, and thank you to the Board of Supervisors. I'm very humbled by this opportunity, honored to serve my alma mater and university and continue to serve the students, faculty, and staff of Louisiana Tech. So thank you for your approval. And now that I've been approved in my first official action, I will introduce our new dean for the College of Engineering and Science, Dr. Colin Wick. Dr. Wick has been at Louisiana Tech for about 16 years. Last 10 years has served in various leadership roles in the College of Engineering and Science, including most recently Associate Dean for Graduate Studies and Research, I believe. And so Dr. Wick has already made some great decisions and great moves as the Dean of College of Engineering and Science, and we just appreciate your consideration for his appointment. Dr. Wick.
Well, thank you very much. And, you know, first of all, I want to talk about the mentorship and leadership we had from, you know, from Les and Terry before here. And I'm so appreciative of that when they came up here. But I'm real excited about what we have going forward. And really a lot of the stuff we do, and I think there's a little bit of a fire lit underneath us. And I really like it when they feel like they're going to put pressure on me and I can put pressure on us, make us feel a little bit uncomfortable because we have challenging times going forward, but we have a lot to offer and I think a great kind of place to go with. And what I really just like best, what I've done, you know, I've actually been doing it for a while, you know, for a few months here, is that I get to go to work every day and just serve other people. And I feel like you always find out it took a while, you know, for career wise to feel what you're kind of meant to do. And I always feel like I'm just meant to go and help other people be better. And I feel like I get to do that almost every day. And I'm appreciative of giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Terry Lilly. Mr. Lilly began his employment at Grambling State University in August of 1992. And when he was hired, he was actually working a triple appointment. And I have to give you his titles. So he served as coordinator, coach of cheerleading and instructor of dance, that's one, activity supervisor and aerobic coordinator, and assistant professor in the College of Education. And in 2005, he took on the associate director of student activities, spirit coordinator, and 2011, director of recreation, intramural sports department, cheer and spirit, and special events. In 2016, associate dean of student experience. So since I've known Terry, I mean, he is a person that gives 100% and he gives everything to students. He's always working with academic faculty and others to make sure that his students are supported. Mr. Lilly has taught me step aerobics and got in my face when I was not raising my knee high enough. So I have a lot of respect for Mr. Lilly.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity. As a proud graduate of Grambling State University, it gives me honor to have the chance to continue to meet the students where they are to help get them where they need to be. I plan to continue in that way.
Now, what she didn't say is that he's been surrogate parent, disciplinarian, and all around resource to students. Terry and I were actually in school together. Obviously, he's aged much better than I have because he's the aerobics instructor and cheerleader coach and everything else. But I just want to commend Terry for all the work he continues to do and to really be that parent on campus that so many of our students have needed over the years, and he continues to serve that in so many roles. So congratulations, Dean Lilly. You're deaning today in that suit too, by the way.
Oh, my goodness, but thank you very much.
Dr. Wainwright's going to introduce.
Good morning, Chairman Clark, President Gallo, and members of the board. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Summers to formally introduce Dr. Montgomery, but before I do that, I want to commend Dr. Summers for not only leading an extensive search for our current Assistant Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students and Compliance, but what he did to ensure the holistic engagement of our students, faculty, staff, community, stakeholders. It was quite impressive and definitely led us to the right leader. Dr. Summers.
Thank you and good morning.
Morning.
I want to thank you for this opportunity to introduce Dr. Christy Montgomery, our Assistant Vice President and Dean of Students. Christy, I have been working with her for over 10 years now, and she's always been a champion for student development. In student affairs, she checks all of the boxes, but even outside of student affairs, she has enrollment experience, which of course, we could always use a little bit more experience in that area. And she's been a Title IX coordinator. So she will supervise our student-on-student Title IX empowerment-based violence issue. So we are excited. We lucked out with this one, and I am pleased to present to you Dr. Christy Montgomery.
Thank you very much. It's truly an honor and a blessing and a privilege for me to be here and to become a part of the UL system family. For the past 10 years, I have been a part of the LCTCS system, and I've been able to build relationships with several of the schools in the UL system, and I have learned so many things. But one of the things that really is important to me is I'm a product of this system. I received my master's from Northwestern and my doctoral degree from UL Lafayette. And so I am a Louisiana girl, born and raised. I'm invested here, and this is where I want to plant my feet and to make the greatest impact that I can make. I've been blessed to have leaders in my life like Dr. Wainwright and Dr. Summers who have poured into me, who have opened doors, who have challenged me to be better for our students. And so that's what I want to do for every student that walks on that campus. I want to make sure that I'm speaking life into them and that they know no matter what they're dealing with, no matter what challenges come, they have someone who is their advocate, who is fighting for them daily, and who wants them to win. So I'm super grateful for this opportunity, and I look forward to helping to lead this system forward.
Thank you, Dr. Montgomery. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to all of these new folks in their new roles. There's no other business before the Personnel Committee. I will hand it back to Dr.
Thank you.
Clark.
Thank you very much. Very, very well done, by the way.
Fumbled a little bit, but it just.
No,
rookie
I'm,
mistakes,
you're
rookie
making me look
mistakes.
bad in terms of my first time over here too. So thank you. And congratulations to all of you who have just ascended or accepted new positions. We're looking forward to either continuing working with you or certainly an opportunity to, and Christy, I'll use your words. I really appreciated the fact that you referenced the family. A family of the University of Louisiana system. Certainly, we'd like to continue to feel as though we are developing a culture of systemness that Dr. Henderson certainly elevated over the years. And again, welcome to everybody. At this time, President Gallo, I think this is your first, is this your first meeting too, officially? I mean, well, the fourth we did, so regular business meeting. How's that?
Nobody's counting.
You have a report for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members were emailed personnel actions this week for their review. Staff has reviewed all the requests and recommends approval. So, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that you.
Yes, we need a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Salter, second by Mr. Peterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's approved.
All right. Next, I've had the honor of trailing behind our Management and Leadership Institute students, and it's been an incredible experience for me to see them as they've gone to the various campuses. I set out with a goal to visit all 9 of our institutions in the first 100 days. I've had the opportunity to visit UNO and this week at Nichols, and intend to also come to Louisiana Tech, although I'm certainly a little familiar with the campus there. But to be able to do that in conjunction with our Management and Leadership Institute under Dr. Caprice. Why am I drawing a blank? I've been with you all week. Under Dr. Caprice Ayub's leadership, they really do a great job, and I'm thankful to be a part of that. So I will be at ULL next week, meeting with the Faculty Senate, and again, we'll come and visit all of our campuses within this first 100 days. As you know, we're currently in the midst of 2 presidential searches. Later this afternoon, we will conclude the Grambling State University search at our special meeting. McNeese University is also, we've had our inaugural meeting earlier this month. We're delighted that there is a high level of engagement from both the search committee members and the campus community. The advertising phase has started, and we have established March 22nd as the preferred application deadline. I'd like to thank the members of this board who've served on both of these search committees, as well as the community advisory members, for their dedication in selecting the right leaders for these member institutions. We're excited to head to New Orleans this Sunday for our future conference. The Leading Women Pre-Conference will begin on Sunday, headlined by Congresswoman Julia Letlow and New Orleans' own Mrs. Gail Benson, owner of the Saints and Pelicans. On Monday, we'll begin 2 days of engaging programming hand-selected by our system staff, which will drive engagement for our faculty and our staff. I'm personally looking forward to this event and having an opportunity to be a part of a panel discussing artificial intelligence, and I'm really geeked a little bit to be a part of that conversation. We would also like to point out that the University of Louisiana System schedule of mental health programming is now live on the system website. This semester's offerings are organized into 3 categories in partnership with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the Managing Anxiety series, and financial wellness programming. All sessions are virtual and require prior registration. I'd like to thank Dr. Katie Dawson for organizing this timely training. The Academic Summit. This year's Academic Summit is being hosted by Louisiana Tech University on Thursday and Friday, April 11th and 12th. This celebration of academic achievement continues to be a highlight each year. I'd like to commend Dr. Erica Calais and the team at Louisiana Tech for their above and beyond work in creating this year's event that is sure to be a success. Lastly, had an opportunity along with several members of our team to travel to Washington, D.C. for the Committee of 100 meetings, as well as the Washington Mardi Gras events. We were certainly excited to have Chairman Clark to attend his first Washington Mardi Gras. We had Dr. Calais, who accompanied the student body presidents, as well as Dr. Clara Norris, who helped to organize me as we made our way to Washington for the week. I'd also like to thank Chris Broadwater and the team at CSRS for hosting us while we were there in Washington. Chair Clark, I think that wraps it up for me.
Okay, any legislative update or thinking in terms of as we start to head into the session? I know that there's not an official section of the report, but I'm curious as to what you're thinking here for us.
Sure. And this morning we did have President's Council, and in discussion with our presidents, we will be coordinating with each of the presidents in the campuses as we head into the regular session. Obviously, we've got a lineup change and not having Cammie here at the system office, although I expect to have her well engaged in our overall system strategy as we move into the session.
Thank you so much. And that, I think, allows me to begin my report. And contrary to popular belief, it's not extraordinarily lengthy and there's no questions that will be asked, although I will certainly allow those of you who wish to do so. Picking up about where Dr. Gallo left off in his report in terms of the Washington, D.C. Mardi Gras, I was actually there on business outside, and I had the opportunity to force my way into some meetings and likewise just tag along. And I was extraordinarily impressed. First of all, Dr. Gallo, your ability to engage. I don't think that there was a room that we walked into that you did not know 3/4 of the individuals on a first name basis. Made us all feel very comfortable, and I think it bodes well in terms of our ability to engage maybe some others that we haven't in the past in a number of our conversations. So it was extraordinary. Certainly, thanks to Dr. Calais, Dr. Norris for their support. I got to attend certain functions, and certainly wanted to also thank CSRS for hosting sort of a welcome reception. It was an opportunity to really welcome you into the UL system, and those presidents who were able to attend and others. I think it was an exceptionally, great way to start not only your tenure here, but also the week in DC. Representative Stokes was there, and so we appreciated her being a part of that too. But I have to confess that my favorite part of this entire week, certainly the UL system or the UL Lafayette reception was wonderful. The UL Monroe reception was wonderful. Others of those types of things. But it was really the chance to engage with our student leaders, the student body presidents. I guess, well, maybe they were the only ones who really wanted me around, or were willing not to say they didn't want me around. And so I tagged along, was able to go, and they met with the State Higher Education Executive Officers Association and got some good dialogue and discussion. Now, this is not just our presidents, but the entirety of the Louisiana public higher ed system. So there was a good number present, and the advisors too from the systems that were there and were certainly engaged. We then went to hear Representative Carter. We heard and met with Senator Cassidy. And during the transitions to each one of those opportunities, to be able to really talk to and engage with these student leaders, just really and allows those of us maybe who don't have that day-to-day opportunity to really appreciate the future generation that we have coming forward, and the impact that those of you at the campus level are having on them. Extraordinary leadership, and I really welcome that opportunity. Speaking of talented leaders, again, tag teaming on Dr. Gallo's comments about the LMI experience. I was invited, Dr. Ayub had me on the agenda yesterday in Nichols, and I'll start by saying an apology to Dr. Clune for not being able to attend the day before. I had some conflicts. But as I sat and listened and engaged with these extraordinary leaders that your campus has provided, I was struck not only by the capacity that they bring, and that the insights they brought, the passion, but I think I was struck most by the almost unanimous acknowledgement of what Nichols is doing and has done. I'll tell you, it was quite frankly, it brings a little bit of the tightness to the throat to understand how they reacted, Dr. Clune, to your leadership, to your willingness to sit down and talk with them, what the entire staff has done there over the last 3-4 years. So thank you for that. Quite a moment. I have 2 meetings to alert you to as board members. The first one, and I apologize to those who will not be able to attend in advance, and that is what I'm kind of referring to as a board development working session. It's a one-day opportunity that I've worked kind of hurriedly with staff to get on board, and I appreciate Dr. O'Rourke for kind of heading this up and so on. But March 22nd, it's a Friday. We're looking to be in Alexandria as a board staff. It's not a retreat. It's not a fun-filled, set of activities. But it is an opportunity to dig into a couple of topics that I think that are near and dear to our heart, having to do with finance, and having to do with enrollment. And so, those are the generalized topics. More to come in terms of that. I think save the dates are to be coming out. Those who will not be able to be in attendance, I'll certainly, work to be sure that you are fully, prepared or advised as to what was discussed and talked about. The second meeting is a date on March 26th. I think that you have already had those sent out. This is by the Board of Regents. It's a trusteeship, annual trusteeship conference. All members of all management boards are invited to join the regents that day. Josh Davies is the CEO and founder of the Center for Work Ethic Development. He's going to be the keynote speaker. Again, I think it's start in the morning, go through to early after or to mid-afternoon. A chance for us to engage and listen to and socialize with other trustees that are representing these boards. It also happens to be the 50th year of the existence of the Board of Regents, and there'll be a reception that evening that people are invited to. I think that the invitations, and I hope I'm not wrong on this, but I do think all of our presidents have been invited to, and there may be others that have been invited, but we certainly welcome and encourage persons to participate. That again is on Tuesday, March 26th. The Pennington Center is where that will take place. A couple of more items. One, the standing committee assignments you should see in your folders. Carol, thank you for your patience. There she is, in helping me go through that. It really was not that complex a circumstance, not too many changes, but you were very patient, to say the least, in terms of my procrastination on some things and calls and confirmations, but they're now in place. And so please look those over moving forward. The chairs, if there are any questions in between meetings, be glad to discuss. And lastly, is it lastly? I think so. Training update. Happy to announce that all board members and the entire system staff office completed the required ethics and preventing sexual harassment training as required by state law. So congratulations. The however portion is that, as you know, every calendar year requires us to do it again. And we're in a new calendar year. So we get to go about this process again. Bruce, I think, is going to be making arrangements moving forward. And so you'll be getting information forthcoming in terms of how to complete that assignment. I think that our next regular board meeting is on April 25th here in Baton Rouge. Is there any further business to come before the board for this particular meeting at this time?
Dr. Clark, can I ask a question?
Certainly, please do.
On that Friday, March 22nd,
Mhm.
meeting in Alexandria, what time of day is it going to be?
I believe we said 10 o'clock start, but there'll be an opportunity to come in earlier. I don't know if donuts are a part of it, but there's something that would be said. Again, this is not a very official situation, but it would end by 4 o'clock, I think, so that people would be able to leave. And I'll get more information, talk to you directly if there are certain items that you would like to bring forth. I don't want to limit it. I certainly, want it to be an opportunity for us to be sure we're all on the same page in terms of understanding both finance and enrollment. I think that there's obviously a correlation between those two things, and going forward, as we go into a legislative session and there's opportunities to discuss, we'll need to be all together. Anything further? All right. If not, may I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mr. Salter, seconded by Ms. Stokes. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, not opposed, then we'll reconvene at 1 o'clock for our special meeting. Thank you.